Mr. Sneaker Gears, my name is Levi. Welcome to another Performance Gears episode where today we're looking at what is possibly the greatest on-court performance Jordan ever made, and that's the Jordan brand Russell Westbrook WhyNot 0.2. Now, normally I break down the categories and go through one by one. Today, I'm kind of just going to go through all of it, so bear with me. If you have any questions, put it at the end. Let me know how you like that format. But I have a lot to say about this shoe because they did an incredible job. So let's get right into it. All right, so starting with the upper, it's really intriguing because they actually use 7 different kinds of materials. Now, that's also if I'm taking into account that they're using a fuse overlay for the toe, and they have this little fuse cap right here. But the forefoot is kind of a fuse mesh similar to what they had on the Kobe 10, but it's still very flexible, very strong. It is similar to like something on the Kyrie 5. Now, the midfoot, they're using more of a textile that is a lot more flexible, moves with your foot, but it's overlaid by your midfoot strap, which is really just this thick material. And depending on the colorway, this is going to come in different materials. They did have one colorway that looked like a multicolor metallic strap. The forefoot or the toe piece here is kind of a nubuck, and I have seen different colorways where this is kind of a leather. It's probably fake leather. Moving our way back up here, the top of the tongue as well as the back is using kind of this fashion forward 3D textile. It is a little bit more rigid, has a little bit more strength to it, and then finally you have that mesh on the tongue for breathability. Overall, it really does give a lot of what you want in a performance shoe. It's flexible, it's strong, it's breathable, it moves with you. Now, I wouldn't call any of these premium, but they work really well, and it's at a price point that's just perfect. So I wouldn't really change anything. Now, again, depending on the colorway, they may change this up as far as how they put the materials, but it's kind of a 90s vibe where you have different layers that give it strength and have different elements to the shoe. So I really do like it. Now, on this Future History colorway, they did make a point to make everything a different color to really highlight how they made this shoe work. But I like it. And an on-court performer, your down-toe look, it's a clean looking shoe. It's not that outrageous. Other colorways coming out will be a little more simplistic. Now, moving on to the fit, I would say this is something you can go true to size. I was able to get my 12.5, which I find kind of a unicorn. On the Chaos model here, they actually didn't even make this in a 12.5. So this shoe does fit me perfect, which, like any shoe, if it fits you really well, it makes a difference. Even if a shoe is not the best performer, if you get a really good fitting shoe, it's something that you're going to gravitate towards just because everyone's foot type is different. So certain shoes are going to fit you a little bit better. Now, what they've done with this is, as opposed to the WhyNot 0.1, and we'll take a look at that here real quick as we go over it, the WhyNot 0.1 started off with a high strap, and that aided into the lockdown. We'll talk about that. The WhyNot 0.low removed that strap, but it still allowed you to tie it in. You got a little less irritation, and as like the WhyNot High, you had this giant shroud. Now, this is the only colorway where that shroud wasn't kind of a rubbery vinyl, which for most people, if you have a wide foot, it just didn't quite work. This specific colorway did have a mesh, so I was able to get a comfortable fit. But if you had a high instep, there wasn't much give here. Now, this again aided in the containment, really pulling you down and really pulling you back in. So the support and lockdown on the WhyNot 0.1 between that giant exaggerated heel cup, the way this pulled you back in, the way this pulled you down was really second to none. Now, the Chaos version I liked simply because it fit me better. Removing that shroud made it a little bit more flexible, a little bit lighter, as well as just allowing you, if you had a wide foot or high instep, to get the proper fit you needed. Back to the WhyNot 0.2. So as opposed to having those straps on top, these, or this back shroud, is actually a different part of the shoe. So you can actually lace this up without that shroud. So if you don't need that support or that containment, don't use it. Great, but you can tell this is really taking homage from how this was. The Jordan 32, if we take a look here, actually did the same thing where it had this separate material and it pulled you back into the heel cup. And another version that I really like, my #1 supportive shoe up until the WhyNot 0.1, was your LeBron 13. Now, this is the elite version, but you had that exaggerated heel cup, clips on the side, carbon fiber, similar tabs. You can see how this comes out. You can kind of see that element where it really comes out and pulls you back in. Now this used a Curum rubber upper and was a one-piece shoe, so similar to the WhyNot, kind of hard to get on, but super supportive. So this shoe gives you all that support, but it's going to be accommodating to a lot more people. So if you have a wide foot, if you have a high instep, you're able to adjust the support and lockdown and fit to make it just right for you. So wide footers, you can go true to size. I probably could have done a size 12 because as a 12.5 here, I do find myself having to tighten it down, but I have no worries on that. It's a half size. I'm used to it. But next colors going forward, obviously I do try to get a 12.5, but I think I can do a 12 just fine. So whatever size you are, even if you have a wide foot or high instep, you're going to be just fine using this. Now I know I was already alluding to the support and lockdown, but we'll take that in two separate things. So as far as the lockdown, you have multiple elements of really holding your foot into the shoe. Most shoes either pull you back into the heel or pull you down into the footbed. My preference is pulling you back into the heel. Now, obviously, there's other different lacing structures you can talk about, but those are the two primary areas where a shoe is going to lock you in. This pulls you back in with the little straps up top and lacing structure, but also pulls you down here. And then you have that added element of that little toe strap here that gives an element similar to what the PG line has with either the Velcro strap or the PG2 with no Velcro, where you have those wings on the toe. So you really have lockdown all areas of the shoe. Now moving away to the support, how that works, as opposed to having the giant exaggerated heel cup where you have this huge wedge here, and again that kind of added to a little bit to the clunkiness of that shoe, this has almost 4 layers of support. So you have an internal heel cup, which I don't know if you guys can hear it in there. You have an external heel cup, and you can kind of see how those wings match each other a little bit, which is why I really like that. As well as you have this external shroud, and you kind of see that external layer pulling you in, and then the internal layer has a lot of molded and pillow heel cup to really sculpt your Achilles and your heel. So you have a lot for this to pull you back into and hold you into the shoe. Now as far as the support on the bottom, you do obviously have your torsional support, which is part of the flight plate system. Now the biggest difference is going to be, and this I think is a benefit, but something you want to take into account, is the WhyNot 0.1 had a very wide base and it was incredibly flat. So a lot of people did like that, depending if you're a shooter or you just want that stable platform. The 0.2 actually took a page from the Kyrie line, where it does have slightly rounded edges. It's not completely flat, but I think they did a beautiful job engineering how it's decoupled, where you still get the benefit of having that smooth transition and flexibility, but they almost interlock. So you have a very thin space here where they don't connect. So you still feel very stable. And as opposed to the Jordan 28 and the Jordan 33, you don't have a protruding zoom bag for the most part. So you still have an element of having a fairly stable platform. Now, this looks like it's kind of rounded and maybe you'll have some instability back here, but your foot actually sits right about here, because if you notice, you have this shroud here. So your heel doesn't go until right around there where it is flat. So you still have that flat base. And then the toe foot, if you look at this, you can kind of see the edge of where the zoom bag protrudes. Now on the Jordan 33, maybe on the 32, that does have a nice mechanical push off, but it's not enough where I would say it's unstable. So this is a nice balance of not having any clunkiness from the 0.1, removing a little bit of that just ridiculous amounts of stability, but still playing very quick. So let's get into the cushion, and I want to really go back into where this cushion came from. All right, up until this year, I would say the best performance Jordan ever, most people would say, is either the Jordan 28 or the Jordan 29. So we have the Jordan 28 here, and I think the evolution of the Jordan 29 was the 30.5, where this gave us almost the exact same midsole tooling. It didn't have the covered heel. This was just foam, so it felt a little bit better in the heel. And then the Jordan 28, where you had that heel zoom, you had the first iteration of your flight plate technology, and you had that fully decoupled midsole. So coming from these two, it was crazy when I wore the WhyNots, and my first instinct was, holy crap, is this that good? So I had to break out a lot of shoes. I did a lot of testing where I wanted to see, am I feeling this correctly? Are these actually playing that good? All right, so let's look back. So the Jordan 28 was known for just being really bouncy. And in the negative aspect of that too, they actually did pop quite often. I have 5 pairs, 2 of which are dead stock. I've had 2 pairs in the past pop on me. So I've been one of those victims, if you want to call it, as well as because they protruded a little bit, the zoom bag, and you had that massive zoom bag in the heel, and you had this fully decoupled heel. They weren't the most stable shoe, but it was really fun. This is the second lightest weight Jordan ever. The Jordan 29 took that mark, but this is the only shoe out of all the shoes I have here that are less than a pound. So this is actually, I think, 14.8. So there are 15.1. So still fairly light compared to the rest of these shoes in the size 13. Now, this was super bouncy. I'm getting about 90 to 95% of that bounce out of this. And the cool thing is, this zoom bag is a lot bigger. It's covering your entire forefoot, not just this area here. Now, this is still a big zoom bag, make no mistake about it, but having the additional coverage makes a difference. Now, this is a little bit lighter as well, but I think the big difference as well is this is using an injected Phylon foam as the carrier, so it's adding that additional bounce in the foam itself on top of the zoom. So let's compare this a little bit to the Jordan 30, and I have the 30.5. The Jordan 30 made its improvements to the 28 system, or the Jordan 29 to the 28, by adding that tendril. So it made it a little bit smoother transition, add a little bit more support, because I do feel my foot kind of over flexing on the Jordan 28 at times, as well as it gave a slightly smaller zoom bag. You know, that was to protect the zoom bag from popping. I think it was a lot more durable, and you feel the big difference that this has a massively larger zoom pad. You do feel a lot more bounce on this compared to the 29 setup, and having that fully decoupled nature while still giving that similar smooth transition and stability that the tendril offered was just a beautiful job of engineering by Nike or Jordan brand. So this setup is amazing. Now, my personal favorite setup was the Jordan brand Mellow M10. That was the 28, but with the additional support of raw leather on the upper. This trumps it in that upper as far as this is more flexible, but it's giving me all that support and more while giving me a very similar cushion setup that I just like a lot better. Now, the only area where this falls short of the 28 is the traction, and we'll get to that in a second. So you may be saying this is going to be a similar shoe setup to what we're getting in the 32 or the 33. Now, the 32 is a lot more flat base. It does have a lot wider base, so this is going to give you slightly more stability, but this took about a month to break in. I literally played with these with 1 foot on each shoe. And some people are like, yeah, those the same shoe or different colors? They play very similar. The difference being, obviously, this has Phylon in the heel, this has zoom in the heel. So this, I think, is giving you just enough bounce with that injected Phylon where I don't think you're going to miss the zoom. And this, because of the Phylon, even after this, whatever this, a year old, this, even out of the box, took about an hour of break-in. I still felt bouncier in this. And that flight plate technology feels very similar to the 33, where I still feel like the shoe is mechanically pushing me forward on top of having that zoom bounce and that injected Phylon bounce. So the cushion on this felt so much better. This is also a few ounces lighter than the 32. 32 was a heavy shoe, and this isn't light by any means, but it plays a lot lighter underfoot. Now, this compared to the 33, I don't think is any comparison. I played with 33 for 2 months, and I never really felt the zoom pad. I never really felt the cushion break in, and I'm a bigger guy, so if other people had more success, great. This, after an hour of play, was amazing. So the cushion, I can't speak highly enough. It is amazing. The transition from heel to toe, it keeps you on your forefoot. And make no mistake about it, this is a max cushion setup. So the only people that are not going to enjoy this cushion setup is if you are looking for something closer to the WhyNot 0.1. If you like this cushion setup better, which is, again, a little bit more firm, it's going to give a little more court feel, but did a great job of absorbing impact. 2 things. 1, the Kyrie 5 is now closer to the WhyNot 1. So this is a very different approach. As well as if you're looking for something quick with court feel, I think the Kyrie 6 does that better than what the WhyNot 1 or the Kyrie 5 does. This is a max cushion setup that still allows you to play really fast and still gives you that agility to play quick. So it's not court feel, but it's really nice and plays a lot lighter and smoother than something even from the LeBron 16. But it's nice if you want a max cushion setup. You don't have to get a LeBron. You don't have to spend $185. Your ticket's right here. All right, so the traction is the only area of the shoe that is not like beyond its years. So the cushion was beyond its years. The way the support system is set up is way beyond anything out there. The decoupled midsole is something no one's offering. So this shoe offers something that no other company or basketball shoe in the market can even come close to. So it's hard to compare this shoe for anything. On top of, I haven't even talked about the price, but the traction is the only area that is really, really, really good, but is not generational. Playing with this compared to any other shoe I tried on, and obviously hopefully you guys have seen it. I tried this on with the WhyNot 1. I tried it with the Kobe's. I tried it with the Jordan 32s, 33s before they broke. All of these shoes, the only shoe this really doesn't get past where it's not better cushioning is really your Jordan 28s. And that's one of your all-time favorite traction. But what I can say about this shoe is it is just below that. So it's not quite all-time, but it's still very, very good. And the setup on this is almost like the opposite of the Jordan 33. So the Jordan 3 had little nubs sticking out, and that has similar traction. Maybe it's a little bit better than this. It's very close, but this has the round areas cut out versus the nubs. So what's nice about this is obviously it's 360 degrees. I mean, there's circles. It works in all areas. You never really feel like you're at a loss of traction. But the best part is the way this gathers dust. And I know that's a weird statement. All shoes are going to gather dust. If you play in any kind of court that's not professionally kept, it's going to get dust on it. When this gathers dust, it's very gradual. You feel it. You don't lose traction suddenly. You're not slipping. You notice gradually how this starts to bite a little bit less. So as opposed to coming to a stop, all of a sudden you're having that one slide, two slides, three slides, but you're never out of control, which is what I really like. So you can either keep playing saying, yeah, I'm fine, don't worry, or you can wipe it and all of a sudden now it's grabbing a lot harder. So I love that gradual loss of traction where it's not this, oh, this is awesome, and whoop, it goes right onto you. And I know we've all had shoes that have that, in which case you're constantly wiping. You're like, oh man, I don't want this to lose traction. This is a beautifully done rubber compound where it's just soft enough for the court. It's firm enough where this is definitely gonna last you all season. It's not this super soft compound where, like in the Kobe 360 or some of the Kobe's where, man, I don't even know if this is gonna last you a full indoor season, let alone outdoor. Outdoor, you can probably get a few games out of it, you know, comfortably, but this is not gonna last a long time outside because it is slightly soft, but it is on the firmer side. So the traction overall, I was really pleased with. So the last thing I haven't even mentioned is the price. At $125, what does this compare to? Not to mention, these haven't gone on sale yet as far as your regular colorways, and where last year you had $125. I was able to get my pair for 60 bucks. And a lot of them went for 60 to 80. You can definitely we're able to get them cheaper with all the colorways coming out. And I can see that being the case for these. But starting off, even at $125, let's talk about retail. The closest shoe to this from Nike or Jordan brand is your $130 Kyrie. This just does everything better than Kyrie. It is more supportive, has more bounce, has a very similar setup as far as it's stable but slightly rounded, and it's $5 cheaper. And at least in my case, for the colorway I got in the Kyrie Taco, this traction blows it away. It's not even close. Now, the only reason you would like the Kyrie is if you're looking for something that has a little bit more of a firm cushion setup, and that's why I'm looking at the WhyNot 1. This is a max cushion setup, which means it puts it in a rare category in sneaker culture today. With basketball shoes, at least, there's not a lot of high cushion shoes. Everyone is taking that court feel, quick kind of approach. Even the Kyrie 5 with this all zoom air, it feels good, but it's still a quick playing area. Now, I actually prefer the Curry 6 if you're going to get something that is low to the ground, playing quick, and you have that court feel. That's just a different style of shoe. So I really like that. If you're looking for a max cushion setup, this is really in a category of its own. And what's cool about it, as opposed to anything from Adidas with their full-length boost setups, I know they have their the Marquee, you have your T-Mac Millennium, obviously you have your Harden, all of which I love, but that decoupled midsole just gives a flexibility, a transition that Adidas can't really match. And as the boost, I mean the zoom air along with that mechanical push off is something that Adidas can't really match either. Not to mention that Under Armour doesn't even offer a high cushion setup. So this shoe really is in of a class of its own. And then if you want to talk about needing support, the Kyrie 5, again, took that mantle where you have a lot more support than it did in years past. The WhyNot 1 probably has more support. Other than that, this is probably one of the most supportive shoes on the market. So if you do need that additional lockdown, that additional support, if you've had any kind of injuries, this thing is phenomenal. At least for me, this is my sneaker of the year so far, where it hits everything that I'm looking for. Now, hopefully I went over a lot of the things that maybe you don't want. It's not the completely flat base. So having those rounded edges is not for everybody. I know someone like Nightwing prefers having that flat base where he's more comfortable with that. Not everyone wants that max cushion. So again, if you're looking for court feel, this is something that this still plays fast, which is a nice compromise, but this is not going to give you anything that's close to, I would call, firm. This is bouncy. This is getting you moving quick. This is, at least to me, amazing. Overall, really love the WhyNot 0.2. It was a totally different approach. And if you're wondering how it compares to my sneaker of the year, the Chaos edition of the 0.1, this still has full length zoom. This is still going to play closer to the ground. Now, this is a lot more plush setup than the rest of the WhyNot line from the highs and the lows. So a lot of people didn't like that. So this to me was kind of a nice balance between a max cushion setup from the 0.1 as well as your low to the ground setup from something like the Curry 6. This is still kind of that sweet spot in the middle. So I don't mind. There's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of where the Hardened line sits as well. The Hardened Volume 3 is just a nice compromise right there in the middle. But playing in the WhyNot 0.22 was one of the first shoes that was a max cushion that still allowed me to play fast. And that was the beauty in it. So again, you could say that's kind of in the middle as well, but it's not. It's a high cushion setup that allows you to play quick. And I can see a player, someone like Geronmon, who liked the LeBron 16, really loving this shoe. Now again, it is a little bit on the heavier side. I know we didn't talk about the weight, but on foot, it feels light. Like, it doesn't play heavy in any regards. It's still lighter than the Jordan 32, so it's not a super heavy shoe. But again, for those folks wanting a lightweight, maybe court feel exaggerated shoe, this is not for you. For everyone else out there, if you're looking for cushion, if you're looking for support, the WhyNot 0.2 is amazing. Love the shoe. Hopefully you guys like this video. It's a little bit long. I'll try to make some edits, but if you guys have any questions, put them down below. I've tested this shoe up against almost anything I can throw at it, wondering if it was really that good, and it stood up. It was on its own. If you guys are not following me on Instagram, you can kind of see as I'm doing the testing what shoes I'm wearing for that day, and I try to give a little details in there as well. If you're not following me already, you can follow on Twitter, Facebook. Guys, follow down below, hit subscribe. If you like this video, hit the little bell so you can see when the new ones are coming out. As always, I really appreciate everyone, and I'll come at you soon.